Okay, so we're gonna make a pasta dough. I already have 2 3/4 of a cup of 2 3/4 of a cup of flour, 4 eggs and 1 egg yolk, 3 teaspoons of olive oil, and half a teaspoon of salt. So the very first thing I'm going to do, and I have everything here, I need to call out mise en place with my recipe, check everything off, is I'm going to take my flour and I'm going to put it right on the counter, and I'm going to put it all in a pile. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to literally kind of put it in a round portion, and I'm going to create a well in the middle. Okay, now it's got to be a pretty big well because it's got to be able to fit everything that I have left here. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add my eggs into the middle. Okay. And I can see that almost coming over the edge, so I'm just going to take some flour and I'm just going to pile that edge up higher. I'm going to add in my olive oil and my salt. Okay, and with a fork, I'm just going to whisk those eggs very carefully, not to go over the edge. Okay, and if I feel like I'm going to go over the edge, just pile that up a little bit higher. Now once these eggs are whisked, okay, I'm going to start incorporating a little bit of that outside flour. A little bit at a time from the inside. And just whisk. So each time I move my fork, I'm just going to whisk a little bit more. Take a little bit of flour. And I'm going to keep doing that. Oh, see, it's starting to poke through, so I can build that up. It's a slow process. And it will start to get a little thicker eventually. But just keep incorporating a little bit more flour with each time you come over. And it will start to get thicker and thicker, and the well will get bigger. Now I used 000 flour, which is specifically made for pasta, but you can use gluten-free, you can use anything else, all-purpose, whatever. Okay, so it's starting to get thicker and thicker. So what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start working this a little bit and cutting it in. So I'm just folding it with my hands. Okay, now if I wanted to, I could use my bench scraper and just kind of cut that in, making sure I get all of my flour. Okay, work it a little. Okay, so I want to do this until the eggs have thoroughly been incorporated. Okay, so totally mixed together. Okay, if it starts to stick to your hands a little bit, I do have a little bit of flour here that I could just put a little bit of flour on my hands and start working. Okay. Now this is going to be a little floury. It's going to seem a little sticky, and that's kind of normal. Okay. So we're just bringing the dough together, kind of working it, lifting it, moving it. Now the dough, it's pretty much incorporated, okay, so it's going to look a little piecey, and that's kind of normal. What I want to do is I want to form this into a ball. Okay, and it's not going to be a perfect ball, but it's going to be a little bit of a ball. Okay, and then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be kneading this for 10 minutes. Okay, so when I knead, I'm going to press it out. Okay, I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to roll with my hands. Okay, so fold it over, give it a quarter turn, and roll with my hands. Okay. Now it looks to be a little bit dry, and it says that if it is a little bit dry or stiff, I can add a little bit of water. So I have a little bit of water here. So I'm going to add a little bit of a teaspoon of water. Okay, and it's 1 teaspoon at a time. Okay, so again, flatten it out, fold it in half, and knead. Okay, flatten, rotate, knead. And as I said, this is going to take about 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, still feels a little stiff, so I'm going to add a tiny little bit more water. If it's too sticky, you can add a little bit of flour. That's absolutely normal. And anything that comes off, I'm just going to incorporate in that fold and then knead. Okay. That's starting to feel a little bit better. So you got to put some muscle behind this. Absolutely. So when we're doing this, we're kind of activating the glutens, which is what we want. So we know we're done when it's like a soft, kind of elastic dough, which We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. I'm just picking this stuff off my hands. Make sure you wash your hands before. Super important. It's actually starting to feel pretty good. You can hear my my puppy dog there. There must be a prime delivery. Okay, so I'm going to continue this. I'm going to wrap it with paper, with plastic wrap, and it's going to sit in the fridge for an hour. Okay, so the pasta dough has been resting. I'm going to unwrap that now. And what I want to do is I want to flour the counter. Kind of move that flour around. And what I want to do is I want to roll this into a long row. So I'm going to make a big log just by pressing and rolling. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into, the recipe says 5 or 6, but you can do it into smaller if you have a smaller counter, which I do. So I'm going to break it into 7 or 8. And then I'm going to roll it out. I'm using a bench scraper for that. Okay. And what I'm going to do is whatever I'm not using, I'm using that same plastic wrap, and I'm going to wrap it up so it doesn't dry out too much. Okay, and I'm going to flour my counter again. I'm going to start pressing that out just with my palm. Each time I press, I'm going to flip it, move the flour around, and I'm gonna start working that. Okay, and again, flip it, forward and back. Flip it, move my flour, forward and back. And I'm putting a bunch of pressure here. And what I'm looking for is a long strip. And I want this to be paper thin. So when I put my hand underneath of it, I can see it. And it's starting to get longer and thinner. I'm using a rolling pin. You can use a pasta presser. This part takes a little bit of time. If it starts sticking to your rolling pin, you can add a little bit more flour. But the key here is flipping it all the time. So you're seeing how I'm getting a little bit of a long strip going. And I'm going to check. Well, I'm getting close. I can see parts of my hand, but it could be a lot more. I can see through it. I can see through that end, but I can't see through this end. So I'm going to roll that out a little bit more. And you can see how there's a lot of flour on the surface. So it's actually moving, and that's okay. That's what we want. A little bit thinner. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now, is we're going to roll it up like an accordion. So I'm going to fold it. Actually, we're going to roll it. You can roll it like an accordion, fold it like an accordion, or you can roll it. Rolling is probably a little bit easier. And we're going to slide our we're not going to use a cutting Okay, and we're going to cut this very thin. And the key is to have every piece the same width so that it cooks evenly. Okay, so I'm cutting these a little smaller than a linguine, but obviously not as small as spaghetti. Okay, and then after that, what we want to do is we want to take each one individually, and we want to just kind of put them on the tray because they have to dry for about 15-20 minutes. Okay, they'll cook so much more evenly that way. And we'll carry on. Okay, so carbonara. I have 4 eggs, 2 yolks that I'm going to put in the bowl. I have 1 cup of Parmesan and half a cup of Pecorino Romano that I'm going to add in there as well. I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter and some pepper. Okay. Now I need to whisk that together, which will be a little difficult. While I'm doing this, I do have the water boiling. I haven't put the salt in yet, only because having it in the bottom of the pan when it's not boiling and then heating it up fast can ruin your pan. Okay, so I have that whisked. Okay. In the process now, while that's whisked, I'm going to take my pan and I'm going to turn it on medium-high, and I'm going to put the pancetta in, and I'm going to cook that off and crisp it. And that will take a couple minutes. Turn the water off because it boiled pretty quick. It's going to take a couple minutes to stir this, and I want them crisp. Okay. After that happens, we'll come back. Okay, so I'm still browning my pancetta, but my water is boiling. I have salted it with lots of salt because this is the only time that it gets to salt. So I'm going to actually drop my pasta in now. Okay, so I'm going to grab some and just kind of drop it in. Okay. It will take a few seconds to come back up to boil, but because it's fresh pasta, it does not have to cook that long, which is a bonus. Okay, so we'll be back. Okay, so the 4 minutes have been up, So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to transfer the pasta over to the pancetta that is done cooking. So it's nice and golden and brown. Okay, just making sure it's not stuck. So I'm going to use a pasta ladle and I'm going to transfer that over. And I'm not worried about pasta water because I'm going to be adding half a cup now and then some more later. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm just trying to get the majority out. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to add half of the pasta water. So I'm going to dump this in. I need 1 cup, half a cup now. Okay, and that's just below half a cup. A little bit more. There it is. And I'm just going to give those. And what that water is going to do, it's just going to loosen everything on the bottom. Okay. And heat everything up. And I'm going to get a little bit more ready in case I need it. And a spoon. So, what is going to happen now is we're going to put the egg mixture in. And when I add this, I need to toss it continuously so that those eggs don't scramble, okay? So when I do that, actually I'm probably going to use this. I'm going to start to add it. Okay, I'm going to scrape that off. And I need to hurry. And I'm just going to be moving that around. Okay. Now, if I find that it's sticky or anything, I can add a little bit more water, which I'm going to. Okay. So I want it saucy, but not too liquidy. And a little bit more water. And as you've noticed, I've kept the liquid right here in case I need it. A little bit more. Now, this is a desired consistency, so I can make it however I want, which is awesome. But the key is to just keep moving it so that those eggs don't scramble. Oh, that's looking better. A little saucy, not too saucy. It's looking perfect. Okay, and I'm turning the heat off now. Okay, so what I want to do is take some And we're going to do a little bit of a twirl. And that's it. Bon appetit.